Joe Judge is figuring out how this game works, and I'm not talking about the X's and O's of winning football games. No. The coach is mastering not only the fine art of the soundbite, but really the fine art of picking your spot. Because piling on Doug Peterson and the Eagles for tanking Sunday's game was the easiest win that Joe Judge has gotten all year. And you know what? There's a lot to feel good about with Judge, but you got to recognize what this is, right? Like, this was the easy win. And to be honest, it didn't really impress me. I saw it for what it is, giving the Giants fans what they want, because the loss still stings. The loss of missing out on the playoffs still stings. But honestly, like, this to me felt a little like eyewash, which I know is so antithetical to what Joe Judge is about. And it felt like it was taking the opportunity to go out on a high note and just get an easy win with a fan base. Like, I'm not trying to be negative, Moose, but I'm also not a rube. So I'm seeing this for what it is. Now, Joe Judge may never be put in the specific situation, and he would probably not handle it as messy as the Eagles did, because that was just a debacle on Sunday. I'll give you that. But to believe that he'll never be put in a situation where he has to put the long-term goals of the franchise in front of the short-term, I hope he never has to get put in that situation, Moose, but I don't. That's professional sports. You know, unfortunately, coaches, front offices, you have to make those kind of calculations all the time. So it's an easy declaration for Judge to make. It's emphatic in how he said it. I understand why he did it, but forgive me, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, it's not a matter of buying it for me. It's just he was on point. He took the win. He saw a win. He went out there. He took it. He hammered it home. He hit it out of the park, whatever cliche you want to do. His statement emboldened Giant fans across this tri-state area and across the country. If you didn't have an affinity for Joe Judge, you have more of an affinity for Joe Judge now. He added to the rivalry of the Philadelphia Eagles. And the other thing that Joe Judge did as well, because, you know, Maggie, it's interesting when we had the conversation yesterday with Carl Banks, and Carl wanted to separate those that played and those that did not when analyzing what the Philadelphia Eagles did on Sunday night. And he said, well, as a player, I was more bothered by it. I brought up the quote that Seth Joyner said in Philadelphia. He said he was ashamed or embarrassed, whatever word he used, to be associated with the Philadelphia Eagles. You saw players being critical of what the Eagles did on Sunday night. There are reports coming out of Philadelphia today that there were players on the sideline that had to be held back because they wanted to confront Doug Peterson because they were so bothered by what was happening. You saw the reaction by Jalen Hurts on the sideline when he was taken out of the game saying, what are we doing here? So with that, what Joe Judge also did yesterday is Joe Judge showed you, for players around the National Football League, you come here, we're not doing that. And yes, you could look at it.
Right, he may never have to specifically do that where you pull your starting quarterback in the fourth quarter.
But it made the Giants.
But he might have to make a decision that puts the franchise before a specific player.
But every situation's a little bit different, right? But so Joe Judge yesterday hit it out of the park, right? He gave the Giant fan, and Giant fans were celebrating on social media yesterday after that cut, and it was an easy win. He saw the easy win. He's smart enough to see the easy win, and he took it.
Yep.
So that's great. And I think Giant fans were rejoicing, but it also sent a message to other players across the National Football League about what the Giants are going to be all about moving forward.
See, but I think players, Moose, though, are smart enough where they understand certain situations, right? Like if you were playing for the Jets this year and you were going through those 13 losses and you saw what the team did, you would kind of understand the situation. You're playing for the Jags this year. They're putting in Glennon over Minshew and might not have given him the best chance to win. You understand what's going on. So I think that players are smarter than that. Like it almost even goes back to early on when Joe Judge first got the job, and I'm not trying to go back through old stuff, but when he wouldn't say Daniel Jones' name or Saquon Barkley, that's fine, but veteran players or people who have been around saw it for what it was, right? It can come across as eyewash. This was an easy win for him.
But I don't see.
I wasn't that impressed with this. I've been more impressed with other things that he's done.
But it's not a matter of like impressing you or I. I loved it. I thought what Joe Judge did yesterday was great. He could have given you the Belichickian answer. He didn't. He stayed true to himself, what he is going to be all about, what he wants Giant football to be all about. He made a bold statement. He reprimanded the Eagles. It adds to that rivalry now moving forward. Everybody clamoring it should be Giants-Eagles week 1 of the 2021 season, and Joe Judge stayed true to himself. Everybody wants Joe Judge to be himself. Well, yesterday Joe Judge was himself, and he has been himself this entire year. And yes, he did take the win. But the message, I think it's easy to say, and it's difficult. I think what the message was for players across the National Football League was, we're not going to do this if we're the Giants. There's not going to be a situation where there are going to be players that want to confront me on the sideline because of a decision that I make. See, what was so alarming about what the Eagles did, and what's different than, say, any other team, right? Any other team that rests players at the end of the season, because we get into these debates. You talk about the 07 Giants, and they play the game out against the undefeated New England Patriots. They got something out of it. John Madden calling Tom Coughlin the next day, congratulating, saying he was proud of what Coughlin and what the Giants did that night and deciding to play and not rest players. The Steelers this week rested players. Teams rest guys, and the Philadelphia Eagles rested a number of guys.
Tons of guys.
But it was so in your face on Sunday night about what the Philadelphia Eagles did. There might be a case, Maggie, down the line where the Giants have everything wrapped up, and maybe they have the number 1 seed in the NFC wrapped up, where they're not playing Saquon Barkley. But I'll tell you, it won't play out the way that it played out in Philadelphia. It won't be a case where you take a guy out of the game and put somebody else in the game that's non-competitive for 3 draft choices or an upward tick of 3 draft choices in the NFL draft. That will not happen. I said that yesterday about the Giants. I don't think that particular case will happen, because that was what was so alarming when you look at what Philadelphia did on Sunday night.